Hey, this is Jake with Curious Human. Today we're going to talk about drug use, who should be using drugs, and why. I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, what's up? I love how you phrase that.
This is also Aaron Currents,
Aaron Currents, Aaron T. Currents, if you will.
and
And Michael Francis Brotherton.
this is Mike Brett.
The 10.
Yeah, you get that numeral straight.
Just in
You
case
won't
you
be
meet any
represented
others.
any other way.
All right, Jake, so let's cut that chase. When are we doing the drugs?
All right.
And
Well,
why?
actually, this was brought on by a recent experience, not for me, but a friend from work. Um, Two of her high school friends died from overdosing on heroin in the past week, right? So we had a conversation about it, and I was like, well, I tend to agree. I tend to agree with most of her viewpoints. Rehabilitation is the best route to recovery, not demonizing these people, and giving them access to safe needles, safe places to shoot up, is reduces the amount of users, and countries that have decriminalized drugs like altogether have also had user rates drop, right? So it seems as though there's this reason why we should decriminalize drugs, all of them, all drugs, right? Why are you imprisoning these people who are making bad decisions? But continuing to talk to my friend from work, she proposed that you should be able to get good, clean heroin, because I believe both the people had poisoned themselves with the drug was cut with something else,
So
right?
you're saying a full-on, that's legalization if you're able to go to like a
Go to
certified
CVS,
vendor of heroin. Yeah, I guess it'd be a
you go to your
pharmaceutical.
pharmacy and you go and you buy your fucking heroin. But I was like, wow, like, that would really decrease the amount of deaths for sure. But I just can't imagine some weeping mother coming to me, Jake, a curious human. I can't believe you advocated the legalization of heroin on your podcast, and now my son or daughter or loved one is dead. Um, so it's weird to me, or it's unusual to
I
me
mean, I
that
hate to fucking be that guy, but like that has a
yeah,
lot more to do with your son or daughter than it does with like Jake on Curious Human. You know, it's like you
sure,
raised this person for how many fucking years, and it's Jake's fault. Like, go to hell.
sure,
You
but there's
know.
more. But right? There's these moral implications to such a decision like that. You're giving people the opportunity to possibly end their lives and make irresponsible decisions. And in the precast, the example of alcohol was brought up. And even though there is a historical legacy of humans drinking alcohol, it has a ton of terrible outcomes in our society. So should people have the freedom to go and make terrible decisions?
Right.
You
And
know,
like what I was talking about before is if alcohol was created like tomorrow for the first time and it wasn't legacied in over hundreds of years of human consumption, but it's brand new. People just
mhm.
start doing it. There's no way in hell alcohol would be legal. Basically, oh really? You drank this liquid and then you started smacking your wife and you went down. You drove your car off a fucking cliff, killed like a minivan, and then you just walked out and bought a burrito at fucking Taco Bell or something. That's what alcohol does. It turns good people into crazy maniacs. But it's still
Well,
legal.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and I still endorse it. You know, like I'm a fan of. I don't know if you're with
Yeah,
me
I
right
mean
now.
I'm
You
a
know,
fan of alcohol myself,
do
but
we
I'm
have
not a
any
fan of
idea? Like, these
legalizing
people
heroin.
crazier than most things. I have a that question. Do we have
Mhm.
okay? So the statistics. I haven't read any of the statistics, but I'm inclined to believe you. The statistics show that if you legalize a drug, less people do it. You're telling me, or less people?
Decriminalize, I think it
Basically,
means.
if you decriminalize a drug,
Yeah.
it reduces user rates.
All right.
If you provide free drug apparatus, or
Yeah.
apparatus, I don't know, if you provide it to users, they were more likely to go into rehabilitation, and
Okay. I
less
believe.
likely to contract like hepatitis C, HIV, shit like that.
Okay, so
So,
what I want to know is, I believe that if you provide cleaner sort of drugs, it's better for people who are doing them. I believe that for sure. I mean, that's self-evident.
but
And
how do you provide?
I also believe that if you decriminalize drugs, less people do them. But I'm not sure why. Like, does anyone know why that happens?
Yeah,
I
that
think
doesn't
it
make
loses
much
its
sense to
allure.
me. I don't know.
when
If
you
you're
You know,
talking about chemical
people just
dependence,
want to
like,
do something because it's forbidden.
Because
Is that
it's
what it is?
taboo.
It's like you're not supposed to do this, so people want to do it. Is that really what's going on here?
when do
I
people
think
start
there's, like,
using
a
drugs?
sense
At
of-
what age?
Have you ever gotten like a lie from somebody that is like so one-sided that you're just like, I need to hear someone else who was there? I think a lot of people have this opinion is like, well, you know, clearly with the fucking war on drugs, like clearly the government isn't giving us the whole picture. So let's go find out for ourselves before we make like a fucking decision. You know?
Okay, I think that's pretty insightful. Yeah, because back, if I remember the DARE program 20 years ago, they were saying a lot of stupid shit about weed.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's true. The DARE program is a net failure.
Actually, it's getting better now. I forget. I didn't read the whole article, but I saw like a blurb of an article on the internet. I think DARE is telling you to use pot responsibly now or something.
it works for
Like,
me, dude.
Oh, really?
Like, Dare made me scared to death of drugs and shit. Like, I was never gonna do any drugs. I bought into that hardcore. Like, it didn't make me want to do drugs at all.
DARE to keep Ryan
It was
off
effective
drugs.
versus me. Well, until I started doing drugs in college, but I don't mean hard drugs. I mean like weed. and
Well,
stuff.
you know, it's to keep a kid off drugs, Ryan. Once you turned 18, DARE wasn't for you anymore, I guess.
I guess so, but it kept me out of
Peer
trouble in
pressure.
middle school and high school.
Reared its ugly head.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Broke the record, Ryan just said no, no, no.
all right,
no,
so I mean,
no.
so I mean, I guess you know what? I've been thinking about this while we've been talking, and I don't have a problem with legalizing drugs. I guess I guess you can do anything you want, but I mean, if you don't show up for work, you're not gonna have any money to buy drugs. So if you start committing crime to get money, we're gonna throw you in jail like any other fucking criminal.
I think a lot of drug users would be fine with that because the people don't really all walk in together just because they're from the same walk of life. You know, you might have one guy who likes to get high now and then, and you might have somebody else that likes knocking over a quickie mart, and like they don't know each other and they don't have the same fucking planks in their party platform. You know.
See, I think by making drugs legal, like going the full legal route, I think that gives people access to too many tempting things. There's like all kinds of people addicted to like oxycodone and Percocets and stuff.
Yeah, but those aren't legal. Those aren't legal under the way these people are using them.
Well, so you're gonna just prescribe heroin in safe doses, and if you get one, you can't go to the CVS down the street and get another batch. Like, you're gonna have this whole database set up.
It would be
Because
so
that's
hard
what's
to
happening
regulate, man.
In Florida, basically, you could go to a different shop, buy your oxycodone or whatever, then you could go a mile down the road to the next one, get another one. So these people called pillbillies, which are basically like redneck drug addicts, would go down there and they'd smuggle all these drugs in. Well, it's not necessarily smuggling, but they would just go to each place and they'd go bring them back up to whatever state they're from. But not just that, but the people living in Florida got addicted. I think that human beings are not safe to make their own decisions on a lot of these. I think there's just too much terrible things
There's a
that
moral
happen.
imperative. Do you
Yeah.
prevent people from having ready
Certain
available
drugs.
access to drugs?
I think there needs to be a study on the addictive qualities of drugs, what's good and bad. I'm not against people altering their consciousness and experiencing reality through the means of different drugs, because I think that's a valuable learning tool. If you're talking about like a psychedelic or marijuana or even like a stimulant like caffeine, that all alters our perceptions in a way that could possibly benefit us and help us out in life from time to time. But when we're talking about just doing something to numb out and just fade away into blackness, like a full body buzz high, and just become worthless and addicted, and I just don't see any value in that.
I agree there's no value in it, but I mean, as long as the person's not committing any crimes, should it be legal to do that?
I mean, I think anybody who says there's no value in a hedonistic experience is like trying to kid themselves away from the experience. There's got to be, you might say about the most dangerous drugs that they have astronomical negative value and a few positive values, but you can't, I mean, people wouldn't do them if they didn't have any value. That's stupid talk.
Well,
yeah, right.
Right. You hit the nail on the head, though. Hedonistic. That is merely sensory related and superficial. I think you can have a good time on it, but I think that when you go,
how do you get superficial or merely from sensory related? I mean, that's all we are aggregates of senses and interpretation.
Well, that is all we are, but then we extrapolate meaning from that, and that's how growth occurs. I believe that we are sensory experiences sort of perceiving a subjective reality, but at the end of the day, what you do with that sensory modality is more important than the actual senses themselves.
Well, I think you're trying to differentiate between, say, something like a psychedelic hallucinogen and some sort of, we'll say, I don't really know, and other drugs. So I would say there is a difference between the two.
Well, the psychedelic
you can
is
definitely,
I think what Ryan's
I think
trying
you
to
can
say
still
is
fucked
that
up
what
on
you
heroin.
achieve out of your life is more important than the pleasure you have doing it. And I'm sympathetic to that too, but I don't think it. I don't think
No,
when people.
I think that long-term growth, I think the actual pleasure, we have it all wrong in this culture. We think that instant gratification and pleasure, just because it feels good in that moment, we think that that is actual pleasure. Real pleasure happens, I think, from going through suffering, dealing with problems, and growing as a human being, and sort of looking back on experiences and overcoming hardships and challenges. I think that is a more lasting.
Might be a deeper form of pleasure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's
more
an
fulfilling,
optimal rhythm between the two. You know, like Schopenhauer says, life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. I think maybe life should swing like a pendulum between, glorious, tragic, heroic failure and like the bend of your life getting over it, and then you try again.
Well, I mean, I think that you can deeply contemplate on a highly addictive drug, say like heroin or something.
Yeah, or meth,
you could
or
definitely,
or any of that.
yeah,
Like
you could
other
do
real
that,
scary
right?
ones.
The problem is, I wouldn't mind. Sorry to interrupt, but I just have to get this point across. I wouldn't mind just pure pleasure-seeking drugs. I'm not against having fun and pleasure but the problem with these pleasure-seeking drugs is it fucks up the chemicals in your brain. It fucks up your endorphin levels, your dopamine or whatever, and all of a sudden you're seeking that high. You've peaked out, and then you just feel it drain from you.
You build tolerance, and you get addiction. And that's the reason why heroin's really fucked up, is because you will never get high again as much as you did the first time. You always need fucking more.
Yeah, they call it chasing the dragon.
All right. So here's what I'm coming down to, right? Because earlier when we were talking about legalizing drugs or decriminalizing and legalizing.
Hold on, has anybody experienced? Because I mean, we don't have to get fucking intimate, but I've done a few things in my day, and I've never seen a dragon like you guys speak of. So I wondered where you guys were getting your information.
All right, hold on.
Have you ever gotten high on something and then never been able to find that high again?
Well, I would say that people with heroin addiction have very crushing, terrible heroin addictions. I would say that is definitely true. When you let's say you're injecting heroin, which is basically the preferred method, my understanding of for heroin users, is that you actually have like veins start collapsing in your arms and shit. Like you would shoot up there, but the problem is that your body is actually fucked up. Like that vein collapses.
Yeah.
So you find other places to shoot up in your body. So it's actively destroying your body. Okay, you need more heroin. Heroin addicts heroin addiction is a terrible fucking addiction.
All right, so let's talk about heroin.
You ever want to have. So while I can't tell you, Mike, what I think you and Ryan were talking earlier about what sort of contemplative states you experience while on drugs, and so I'll give it to you that you could use heroin and be a deep thinker and have very good cognizant thoughts, right? But the addiction to heroin is crippling, and it will destroy you and whatever you have.
Overcome through thought. It becomes a physical addiction. Your body.
Right, so here's what I was saying. I was saying earlier when we were talking about legalizing drugs, the reasons we brought up in favor of it were all reasons like, it lowers it keeps people from dying from using bad drugs. It lowers the addiction rates.
My example was,
I guess what I'm saying is,
two of her friends died from shooting bad heroin.
I'm in favor. If the research is solid, I haven't done the research to see if this is just coincidence. But if there actually is a causal link between legalizing drugs and usage rates going down and people living healthier, I'm in favor of it. But that also goes to show that I don't think it's a very good personal decision for you to do heroin. If the reason I think it should be legal is so it doesn't hurt you is bad, I think it's a bad personal choice whether it's legal or not. I mean,
well, the thing is, I think that making it illegal makes it harder to get. Like, there's a lot of people that would maybe get
Yeah,
addicted
I
to
don't know if
heroin.
that's true or not, though. I
But
think
they're
I can
hanging around.
You can go and get it. There's like a heroin epidemic in America or something.
No, but like, let's say you're average Joe Bob and you work in a cubicle and everyone around you is sort of clean cut. They're clean cut Americans. They have families and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, there are people with the heroin addictions that are like that, and you wouldn't know them from, a junkie on the street because they're functional. But in most cases, the average American isn't going to stumble across a heroin dealer. But maybe he's going through a depressive moment in his life, and he decides to just shoot over to his doctor to get a prescription of heroin.
Is that true? I mean, I live in a city where you can get drugs at Speedway. You know,
I mean,
if you have to.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
that
I can
doesn't
get
sound like an
heroin
accurate.
tonight if I wanted to.
A lot of people that are like white collar professionals aren't going to feel safe walking around in a place where they can buy drugs in a public place.
Here,
Well,
I'll
that's
say this
not
much.
just white collar professionals. That's anyone who's sane. But,
There was a-
you know,
I'm
were
just saying,
kids
like in a
from-
cookie cutter suburban America, it's going to be less likely that those people are
But
going
isn't that to extrapolate like sociological data or conclusions from a very small microcosm?
Well,
I mean,
I'll
how
tell you
much of
this
America is suburban America?
Here's
I think
the
that's a
real-
lot of the problem is that we have like the suburban microcosm, the redneck microcosm, and the hood microcosm, and there's like very different ethical and social narratives coming out of each. And everybody is sort of like pissed off that their fucking rules aren't being played by, and maybe the solution to the drug war is going to be in the solution to the culture war, which puts me out of a job. You'll hear less bitching about socialism, but I would be happy for a little domestic peace in America.
Well, here, I have real empirical evidence of how easy it is to get heroin, right? There's kids from, you remember Crestwood, a local high school close to ours? There were kids from
Yes.
Crestwood who died from using heroin, okay? So, I wouldn't say it's hard to find, even though it's illegal.
Well, you
I
have to
agree
go
with that.
looking for it, and you're going to have to maybe stumble across some shady characters to get it. If it was fully legalized, you could just show up to a doctor, and a lot more people would feel more comfortable. A lot of people are more comfortable getting their pills.
I mean, you
from a
would have
doctor
that
than-
privacy. That's nice.
Brian,
Professional.
Brian, if what you're saying is true, then I agree with you. But I thought we were operating under the assumption that if you did make it available to your doctor, usage rates would go down.
That is,
don't-
well,
that is
they've
what-
never done that before, I don't
That's
think. The assumption is that, yes.
All right. Well, are you challenging the assumption then? Because if honestly, I don't think people should be doing heroin routinely. So anything that keeps them off of it, I'm in favor of.
I guess there would at least be an initial exploratory phase where it would be hard to tell exactly how it will go. For example, Ohio might pass a pot law this November, and whether or not it's very good economically in certain aspects, like who controls
be.
how much weed sold, or who can grow weed, whatever, yada yada, like weed will become legal. So maybe you could look and see, like, hey, this is how many more people started smoking weed, but the problem is that it's hard to get data on how many people smoke weed regularly in Ohio. But you will definitely see some purchase data from stores or wherever
Yes.
people will buy this shit.
I mean, yeah. Anecdotal evidence, though, this is anecdotal. I don't have statistics, but I have heard, I don't know where I've heard it, but I have heard older people say that if it was legalized, they would smoke weed. They just don't feel comfortable, like I was saying earlier, going into some shady spot. Maybe their friends don't do it because you guys need to realize, I mean, you guys are still sort of in the college area and shit, but once you get out of that, like, people just aren't, there's not drugs all around anymore, really. I mean, your social network changes a little bit. As you get older, you get more responsibilities. You might have kids and a job you have to show up to early.
I have,
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's not the case out here, man. Like,
I guess
if
we
you-
are kind of living in a strange.
If you leave the college area, like that's where the drugs get crazy, because all of a sudden
you're
you're
not
in,
living-
like, downtown.
You're
or
living fucking
I mean, this
fucking
is
hell.
Albuquerque. Yeah, this is Albuquerque.
Albuquerque,
Yeah, I mean, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
impoverished.
Okay, so also all of California, which
No, I mean, dude, there's different demographics of people.
There are-
I'm talking about
there are enough places in America, I think, where it's also true that drugs don't end at college or even begin at college. That I don't think it's fair to marginalize Albuquerque. I think there are a lot of inner city places and a lot of places on the fucking West Coast where it's just normalized, no matter what walk of life you're from or what phase you're
Maybe pot, I guess. I guess it's
I mean,
ingrained into the West Coast
yeah.
lifestyle, but
Well, if you talk about
Jake,
they've had
remember
dispensaries
Akron?
for
and
fucking
really
years.
anywhere. But I just wanted to say that another example would be Amsterdam, because they have basically legalized weed there. Only about, I think it's 20 to 29% of the population in Amsterdam smokes weed. Now, granted, America is different. America has a different culture. We have gun violence problems unlike any other country in the world. And it's not necessarily, I mean, we have more guns, but still, it's outrageous, right? So who knows how Americans exactly will react to this suddenly legalized heroin? If anything, I would say that it is intravenous use, injecting yourself with a needle, that would turn people off to shooting up heroin. That's what I would say it would be.
Well,
So that
there's also
really,
the idea
not
of
to mention the
punishment
fact that,
and the idea that if
I
you're
mean,
caught with heroin, you can go to jail. So I also
I don't,
think
you know,
that
I don't think that keeps. I mean, that keeps some people from trying it out, but honestly,
that keeps responsible people from
you know
trying
what
it
keeps
out.
what keeps responsible people from trying out heroin is that they've seen the studies on. They know it makes your life not worth living. You get hooked on it. You
I'm
keep
not
going.
convinced that we can speak
You
that
know?
broadly, dude. I don't. Somebody's like, is it a responsible
I've never-
decision for me to shoot heroin? I'm
I've
like,
been on the
well,
I've been on the internet the whole world over, Mike, and I've never seen anyone who's done heroin routinely for more than 4 years and says they're happy. Even says they're happy.
really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I've read tons of. I like to read the trip reports on a site called Arrowwood, and I would read all kinds of people that did heroin. They would describe their experiences and stuff, and then they would talk about how terrible it is to try to kick it, and they're going through withdrawal. They're getting like shivers and shit.
So that's what I'm
I've
saying.
heard that
That's what
heroin
I'm saying,
withdrawal is one
Ryan.
of the most painful experiences you can undergo.
I'm saying if you're really responsible, it isn't the fear of being in jail that's going to stop you from doing it. It's your value of life that's going to stop you from doing it.
I don't know, man. People have different priorities. A lot of people won't do it because they don't want to end up in the newspaper, the crime blotter, or they don't want their kids to see them as a loser.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not in favor of legalizing all drugs tomorrow, but I am in favor of
Why the
legalizing
hell not?
because I think we need time to have people to develop the proper attitude towards them and to understand what they're getting themselves into.
well, that's an interesting approach. The proactive.
Yeah, we need to educate
So
people.
you're gonna like legalize a drug a week while society reads your literature?
I think we'll legalize. Yeah, I think we'll start legalizing drugs. We'll try to phase them in so everything's legal about 60 years from now. We'll give it a couple generations.
60 years, Jesus Christ! We won't even have time to reap the benefits. It's
Well,
stupid.
not you or me, man, but our
I mean,
children's children.
Mike, is there any drug that you can't get, that you haven't tried because it simply was unavailable to you?
Is there any drug that I haven't tried simply because it was unavailable?
That you
to me?
wanted to
I
try
mean,
and
something
suck.
you want that's unavailable to you. Like, honestly, there's some drug out there that you couldn't get your hands on.
I see. I take your point. People can
Okay.
still get high. But
So,
people should
honestly, if I want to
have-
get fucked
no,
up, I can still do that.
Yeah,
Even though
you
it's only-
can, but you would have this large element of like risk and fear and
That's
maybe
part of the excitement. That's the tragic, poetic part of it, right?
trust.
I mean, that's a weak argument, but I think it's funny. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like for weed, for example. You know, when I was younger, I was smoking it in Ohio. I was really afraid of the cops finding me, and rightfully so. They were kind of draconian, you know. But like, if we're talking there's a difference in the kind of drugs we're talking about here. You know, like
Yeah.
heroin is worlds
You can't
apart.
lump them all together.
So like, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm with you, Ryan, more than you think I am, because I don't think people should be doing hard drugs like heroin. You know, I just don't think it's good for them. I guess we just disagree on how to get them to not do it to begin with.
Yeah, and it's sort of weird that some people like Brett. What do you think about guns? I mean, do you think that everyone should just be allowed to show up and get a gun, or what?
I think we should have guns. Everybody else should fuck off. We.
Us
I
four
just
are
think
the only
that
ones with
some
guns.
people, I'm not saying that
Four
you,
gun owners.
but a lot of like
do.
liberal people want full-on legalization of drugs, but they don't want like, they don't want like assault rifles and weapons and shit. So it's kind of weird that the two opposing ideologies.
Well,
sort
it's
of say
interesting because you
certain
really
things.
can't hurt. You can't go around and like commit murder by stabbing people with like a heroin.
Good point.
You know?
I mean,
Yeah.
you could spread HIV.
You could
or-
have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
kid
yeah.
that has
Yeah.
fucking
But
problems
you don't
because
buy
you're
a
a
gun to use
crackhead.
on yourself usually.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, well, here's, man. Drugs are more of a
should
silent
probably consider
killer.
buying drugs first.
Yeah,
Listen.
but the difference is that you're killing yourself. You're not killing me with them. You know.
No, you're actually a bane to society. Everything is ruled by cause and effect in this reality. So just because you can't do a mass shooting and make the headlines on CNN with drugs doesn't mean you don't have effect on your community.
That's
The minute
true.
you start-
Surely. Which is why I'm in favor of still vigorously arresting and prosecuting people that commit drug-related crimes, but just not the crime of doing drugs. So like, say you rob an old woman, because you want to get some money for some sort of drug, and you accidentally kill her. Well, I think you should die for that. Not because you want to do drugs, but because you killed an old woman.
Do you think that selling drugs should be a crime?
Doing what?
Selling drugs.
Selling drugs? No, I don't think. Well,
drugs.
okay. It all depends, because frankly, there's a lot of good revenue to be made by the state from the sale of drugs, and that's one of the fringe benefits of legalizing certain drugs.
That's true.
So I do think there should be, penalties for selling drugs. Yeah, after it's made legal. Sure. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's an interesting. I think
a lot of
quandary.
drug users would be happy with the fucking dichotomy too, because again, you separate people who are getting high from people who are causing harm to society. I think the drug community might be the most vocal endorsers of like punishing people who steal for drugs and not people who fucking work 60 hours a week and then go home and get high for their short weekend.
Well, nobody should have to work 60 hours a week. And Obama's trying to do something to change that. I don't know if you heard.
Really?
Yeah, he's trying to make it so that he can't screw over salaried employees that are making less than $50K a year.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna pay them overtime now. Yeah, that's gonna be good. But that's tangential.
Well,
sorry guys. I'm a curious human.
I'm really in favor of your gradual phasing idea, Aaron, just because it appeals to me, because I think it's a great way to change people's attitudes, because you aren't just going to get people suddenly to swallow this pill. You're really going to have to combat them with information that tells them that this is a good thing. And doing that slowly, maybe introducing it like in specific communities or something, like a city could like start this up.
Well, give me one good reason. The only reason that you guys want fucking heroin to be legalized is because you heard some study somewhere says it lowers usage rates. So are you putting any value on the experience? Is this all just pragmatism?
This is pragmatism for me. Yes, I mean, for the pure, I've never done heroin. I've only read about it. But for the pure experience, I'm sure that while you're in the experience, if it's a good trip or whatever, I'm sure it has value. I'm just saying I've never seen, like I said earlier, I've never seen anyone who could manage it successfully. Everyone always regrets it sooner or later, which is why I advise not doing it for your personal life. But should it be a crime for you to ruin your own happiness? Probably not. Probably not.
I mean, it sucks because it seems like these people
never done heroin and regrets it.
Anyone who continues to do heroin, like as a hobby or recreation, regrets it eventually. Yes, that is true, 100%.
I like a.
Can you cite that?
Sure. Aaron T. Kurtz. What day is today?
I mean.
No, I mean like from a credible source.
No, because there's no one who's interviewed everyone in the world, dude. But this is the general feedback. Yeah. The only people you hear that say they don't regret it are people who accidentally kill themselves like the third or fourth time they do it.
Well, I think Aaron's right. I think that people who probably start using heroin, like people who have just been introduced to it, probably are like, hey, this is an awesome drug. But at the end of the day, it probably brings about tragedy.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anyone say like a heroin success story where they're like, yeah, I take heroin every other weekend and I'm happy.
I've been doing it for 30 years and I'm happy. That's never happened.
It's more like a downward spiral and you can't claw your way back out of it.
It's either they can't, it's either that or they do kick the habit and they're like, wow, I'm so glad I got out of that. That was miserable.
Yeah, and they're out there talking to schools and spreading the word like.
Well, what this means is that if you do have a heroin success story, you are under scientific obligation to email Curious Human and let us know.
That's CuriousHumanPodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. If you're tuning in right now,
Please repeat that in case you're too stoned to fucking CuriousHumanPodcast@gmail.com.
You're laying around on some cheap fucking motel mattress. You got your arms strapped up with one of those rubber thingies. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but you're laying there listening to Curious Human right now. If you think heroin's really good, you email us, buddy. Oh,
yeah, let us know how it's working out for you. I really am quite curious, but.
I'm just cynical, curious monkey.
And I just wish I could know, because like I had some fun when I was a kid, but I'm not like fucking Anthony Scarface or whatever. Like I don't know what real serious like drug enthusiast. I don't know. I've met a few in my day, but I'd really like to get, because you can't you can't send out the fucking, census reporters around. But all you're gonna get is like 14-year-olds going like, yeah, I do all the meth in the world. Ha, ha, ha.
You might,
it's hard to get real accurate data on this.
I mean, you might find some people who are like, yeah, I did that a few times. It was crazy, but that was years ago. I have no regrets. That might be the only example you'll have of like, somebody you might call a heroin success story. But if the problem is if you make a lifestyle habit out of doing these hard drugs, it always ends in misery. That's the problem with it.
Even probably doing psychedelics, that's probably not addictive, probably not a good thing to do long term. I mean, a lot of people become like eraser heads, they call them, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they sort of just destroyed their mind. Everything has to be, you have to be very cautious. I mean, if we do decide to start legalizing more drugs, there needs to be a hell of a lot better than DARE. We need to actually explain to people what drugs do to you and really kind of teach it in school, like the different side effects, how to manage them, etc.
That's all part of the 60-year
plan. That would
plan.
be great. Make it a fucking 2-year plan and we'll talk.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's
Would you offer children drugs in school?
2, dude. Hard lines. Lines in the sand.
Dude, what the hell, man? How can you think 2 years? Nobody's going to buy that, man.
Would you offer children drugs in school?
No, I don't think children should do drugs at all. No.
I mean, maybe, I guess it might not be a terrial idea to have, a fucking freshman class at a college do, very small amounts of different things.
Well, whatever. That's a coming-of-age experience, Those aren't kids anymore. They're like 18-year-old men and women,
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they have that right
what
to
about
experiment.
this? What about this? Okay. We legalize drugs, but you have to go to a clinical setting to take them, where someone, shoots the heroin for you and make sure that you don't die.
I like this. I like this idea. I like this idea a lot.
They're called experience centers, and you go there and you just have the experience of the drug, and then you're overseen by people to make sure that you don't freak out.
Dude, what if I want to have sex while I'm...
I don't know, man. Yeah, would you want to trip, not in your own home? There's something kind of invasive.
I think it's not invasive, man, because it's a completely clinical setting where the doctor respects your
No one
privacy.
wants to do drugs in a clinical setting. They want to do drugs in the middle of the fucking forest and watch the sprites dance.
I mean,
I think Mike might be right, honestly.
You could have a country retreat, though. You could do it at a lodge or something, a health lodge,
Yeah, it could be one of those ayahuasca retreats where you have a shaman guide you through it, but that's more for psychedelics and stuff. I'm not sure how it would work for cocaine. You do a bunch of coke and you end up just talking to the nurse, chatting your ear off.
I just worry with the clinical thing. My real concern is when you get people who are sort of habitually destructive, and they get in a place where they're probably gonna end it or go get high, and then all of a sudden the drugs aren't there. It's oh shit, sorry about your luck, brother. You were forced into the worst of the.
What do you mean?
Yeah, wherever the wait in the line for your next hit, you just
fuck
out.
The idea.
I hate to break it to you boys, but if you're a drug addict, you gotta wait around to get drugs all the time. You always run out. This is part of
drug dealers aren't the most reliable people, right? You got to call them and they're not home.
Yeah, exactly. They used to call it waiting for the man. They used to call it.
Really?
Yeah, waiting for the man to show up to sell you the drugs.
Yeah. Lou Reed spoke about this at length.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I think you guys want to call it a night for the podcast?
Sure. Yeah, I think my opinion's well established. I didn't know what it was until we had this conversation. I'm in favor of legalizing drugs and nobody doing them.
Okay, my final comment is I'm in favor of legalizing more drugs than are currently legal, possibly decriminalizing all drugs, but I can't support the really addictive and terrible ones. So I think when more scientific research needs to go into the addictive nature of
why are we trying to make these broad, everybody should do drugs or everybody shouldn't? That's kind of stupid talk,
Well, it should be it is their choice, man. It's everyone's choice whether or not to do drugs.
It's also a question of law, right? So when you pass laws, they have to apply to society at large, So that's why it kind of forces you into that position.
Right.
If we're talking about legalizing the drugs, so why does that matter?
Well, yeah, we're deciding whether or not we should. Most of us seem to be in favor of it.
I think we're all in favor of it, right?
Yeah, I have this heroin problem, man. It still cuts me to my core because I want
You want some heroin?
I want some heroin right now. but I need to make sure that shit is not cut, dude. Well, basically, it's like it seems to me that I want people who are already addicted to this drug to be able to go and get this drug or whatever, but I don't want people like new people to start using heroin because I think it's just a destructive hole. I still just the idea of someone going to CVS and be like, oh yeah, I want that heroin. Like, oh, here you go, sir. And that's like 1995, and then you go, shoot up your heroin like maybe right outside the store. I don't fucking know. Oh no, the CVS has a clinic, so you can go in. You have this employee of CVS shoot you up with heroin. Okay, like because this is the safe clinic. Okay, that I just don't know how I'm going to sell that idea to people that they will be okay with that idea because that is the optimal way.
And see, like that doesn't scare me
We need
at
more
all.
research.
And
We need to bring up more studies.
It's the most effective.
One thing you read. We need to,
It's going to result in less users. It's going to overall have a net beneficial effect for society.
if you're right, then I would fully support whatever will reduce the amount of people doing these drugs because that's the whole goal. Isn't for me to be a Nazi and tell people how they shouldn't manipulate their own consciousness, but
there's
it's
still
like
tragedies. The tragedies
Stop it.
will be there. Even though
that touches on a really good point if we're looking at like legalizing and bringing like the two worlds like drug culture and suburban culture or whoever the fuck else lives in this country like together, we're gonna need a lot better like drugs because we shouldn't be like people shouldn't be in a position where they have to put something that's gonna kill them into their body to catch a fucking buzz, and I think in drug science is gonna be it should be approaching its own technical singularity in the next
good
decade
point, man.
or so.
They need to have it seems like everything in this world. I was thinking about this a lot lately.
Dude.
There's like a balance. There's nothing in the world that you can fucking do all the time that won't kill you. If you drink too much water, you're gonna end up dying. Like, why can't they make a drug that can make you feel great all the time with no side effects? It's
It's
just
like Alice Huxley, man, Moksha or whatever,
Yeah.
You need to
Soma?
take that shit. Soma. He also calls it, it's Moksha. Well, it's
Most
private
of the
journal.
state, right?
Yeah. Whatever, anyway. Yeah, Soma. Yeah, you just take half a gram, you don't give a damn or whatever. Yeah, flying good, no physical side effects. It's the wonder drug. I don't know, man.
so I'm torn.
They might come up with it. They might invent something that's a really great drug that's not harmful.
just a way to optimize your human experience, like going back to the first podcast where maybe you have like a neural implant or something that sort of always puts you in I don't know enough about the mind to really speak at length about this, but it just it kind of always just channels your thoughts in the right direction so that you're not thinking negative or causing your own suffering.
I would like that,
Yeah, most people's suffering is all in
time to time.
But then you've got the same problem as like people with CPAP or whatever that can't feel pain and have to do checks on their bodies to make sure they're not losing copious amounts of blood because they didn't feel walking into something.
I mean, we're talking about not just feeling good, but making sure you're doing prudent things. I mean.
Well, you could, without feeling pain, you could just have if you were talking about a neural implant, you could just see red. If you see red, that means, oh shit, your hand's on a stove, pick it up. But you don't have to have feeling in your hand.
It might not be quite the immediate reaction, but yeah, I think that'd be okay.
Yeah. We could definitely weed out all sorts of pain.
I want to mention this because I might not have another opportunity to do it. Aldous Huxley reminded me of it. Actually, Huxley writes about drugs a lot,
Doors of perception.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he was talking about how there is no drug that can replicate the experience of sudden acceleration and speed. He says it's an exhilarating experience, and nothing can replicate it. And I was just thinking, roller coasters, we have those now, right? And like all these carnival rides, it's kind of like what he was talking about. And you don't need drugs to do it.
I don't think so at all. I think the experience of exhilaration and speed that comes from abusing a drug and
but he says no drug has been invented that does that.
That replicates the roller coaster?
Yeah,
Probably
I
hasn't
didn't say the
done
word roller coaster, but literally physically moving quickly through space is what it is.
Gotcha.
And there isn't a drug that does that. There's drugs that'll speed your heart up and stuff.
Well, DMT will suck you through a tube and spit you out through a hole in the universe.
Yeah, but it won't make you move
through
physical space quickly. It won't give you that sensation, now will it?
I don't know.
But what about like amphetamines and speed? Isn't that moving
Nope,
you quickly
no,
through
no, no.
space?
That's as far as I understand. That stuff just speeds up your heart rate and stuff. It doesn't feel like you don't feel wind rushing over your skin. You don't feel this like being displaced from one spot to the next
I mean,
rapidly.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point. Is like if you take like Dexedrine or something, or what's one Adderall that all the fucking like you're not gonna feel like you're on a roller coaster. It's more like you are like it's a different kind of movement.
I mean, let me ask you this, right?
You're not on a roller coaster.
You ever dream where you're flying?
You are.
Have you ever had a dream where you're flying like real fast and it's like
Yeah,
amazing?
I feel my stomach drop in those dreams.
Yeah. Does any drug do that? Give you that exact sensation?
Like a falling sensation? Probably. I mean, I'm assuming a psychedelic would do that. I mean, the thing with psychedelic, you don't know what you're going to get, though. You can't just replicate the result every
I think you're reading that too literally, Aaron. I think you just have to think about it as like raw exhilaration. That Huxley's trying to say that the sheer act of being, that you experiencing exhilaration through being, just.
I think he means like physical locomotion.
Childhood is like that. I would say that as an adult, I've been numbed, like hardcore. The world was full of wonder, and I probably felt like being high all the time up until like the age of maybe like 7.
All right. Well, it doesn't really bear on the conversation, but I just wanted to bring it up just because we were talking about it.
I thought you were just reading too literally into that. That he was actually.
I think he means it literally. I mean, I'll have to look it up. But I'm pretty sure he means it literally. I think he literally says like physical locomotion or something.
Huh. Well, that just to me that's like it's like what? Like no.
Yeah, I don't feel that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, like I don't
know what to tell you guys. I spent my whole life being afraid of roller coasters, and I still kind of am. But I've been on a lot of them, and when my fear finally leaves me, there is truly an exhilaration that cannot be replicated with any other experience.
Amusement.
Okay. Well,
it does have a amusement quality to it.
All right. So anyway,
kind of when you're terrified, and then all of a sudden you're okay, and that you made it out.
It's like you're flying, kind of. I don't know.
Well,
anyway,
you probably get a near-death scenario and feel the same way.
Maybe. I'll have to look it up again.
Some people do, man. Some people, instead of the fucking instead of ending it or like fading into drug world, they go rock climbing and fucking canoe the Amazon and shit. I read a really cool book by a martial artist and SWAT cop who was talking about phenomenology of violence, and he was like, I've just stopped like rappelling sheer cliff faces and stuff because I've been in so many damn lethal encounters that like I don't fear for my life anymore, and so I don't get high on it.
Yeah, habituation. That definitely happens.
Tolerance.
All right.
Moderation.
Human.com. You can check out the videos and the email.
Yeah, monkey talk.
Whatever you got, drug stories, maybe potential topics, whatever, letters and